welcome, Michael. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to talk about, your experience and particularly cruise ships and what you've been up to during this pandemic. Friends, for anybody that's following, we met actually doing a digital content workshop through Max Theatrics, which is a really fun program. It was, how many weeks was it, Michael?
9, I believe.
Like 9 weeks, yes. I think so. Yeah, it was over the summer and some really fun projects, really cool projects. We actually got to do sort of do a slight directing project together, but digitally in different places. Michael, tell me a little bit. Just tell everybody about where you're living right now, where you're from.
Well, I'm still based out of New York City, and I've been bouncing around from my mother's and one of my best friends here in Florida, trying to avoid the plague like everybody else. And I was working on a cruise ship when all of this went down, and they took very good care of us. It was the one that was all over the news. They dubbed us the virus ship, which is not the case at all. But like I said, it was a very controlled, clean environment. They took really good care of us. And I'm actually going back out on that same ship in 2 days.
Amazing. Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
for you to have that confidence, you must have felt really taken care of. So that's great.
Oh, yeah. I hate to say, oh, fake news, because you don't want to believe that. You really don't want to believe that. But when you are in the middle of that story and that hysteria, you really see that there is a lot of fake news. And unfortunately, the cruise ships, to a lot of people, already have a bad rap, but this didn't help it as well. But they took really, really good care of us. I can't complain at all. And that, of course, is why we're all going back.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, great. Well, we'll talk more about being a cruise ship artist. I would love for everybody to know a little more about how you came into this and like, where you started.
Well, I'm very strange when it comes to the arts. I describe myself as a blue collar actor because I will sing, I will perform in a basement. If it's gratifying to me, it's gratifying to me. And I didn't start till very, very late. I know, as is the case with a lot of men, fortunately, unfortunately, that's why a lot of times girls are so damn good. But I think there's something beautiful about that because, it's the old, very typical American male, toughen up, be a man, walk it off. Whereas girls are naturally allowed to dream and be open and be emotional and vulnerable. I think men in general have to work on that a lot more. And luckily I found a way of dealing with that, in a therapeutic kind of way, which is theater. But I didn't do my first show ever, even community theater, until I was about 21. And I didn't have my first voice lesson until I was almost 23, I think.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, when I say I started late, I started really late. Even college, I went to college very late.
I read in your bio that you grew up in a military family, right?
Yes. I'm Latino. I'm Puerto Rican and Mexican, so I was always around different cultures and colors. And being Latino, we all sort of sang and danced around the house. So I didn't think it was special, and I didn't think people actually did that for a living. If that makes sense, it's very strange.
Absolutely.
But here I am. I've done the national tour of Greece and regional theater and off-Broadway and off-Broadway and cruise ships and outdoor drama. And I don't think there's a difference between the level of art if you approach the material the same way with the same amount of love and respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned Florida State and you started your training out there, yes?
Well, the Florida School of the Arts. I was going to transfer to University of Florida, which ended up not happening because I was in final callbacks for Rent on Broadway, which didn't happen.
What a great experience.
It's very odd, very odd. They really wanted Roger to play the guitar for some reason. But yeah, very strange. But I ended up just working nonstop in some regard or another. And I luckily found this.
Where exactly did you work? In summer? You said summer stock?
Oh yeah, I've done outdoor dramas, historical dramas. I've done theme parks. I've done cruise ships. I've done regional theaters, Algonquin, Merry-Go-Round, the Palace. I really have sort of touched every aspect of the industry. Third boy from the left in the jury in Law and Order. Like it's very strange. there's no other way for me to describe it as anything other than blue collar, very blue collar actor.
So, but like extremely versatile, it sounds like as well. I mean, I've seen a lot of your work, and you seem like a
Oh,
very.
I hope so.
So, how important do you think that is when you're on a cruise ship?
Well, that's the thing. I think cruise ships are like boot camp, especially for younger people. Because I always felt like I was playing catch up because I started so late. I think cruise ships really helped me sort of get out of the box that the industry was starting to put me in. And also for myself, you know, they say, oh, you are legit golden age contemporary musical theater. That's all you do. Well, I want to be a rock and roll star. Oh, I want to be a jazz singer, you know, and there are shows where you can pop around and sort of touch base on all those genres. But on cruise ships, you literally have 4 and 5 different shows and parades and cabaret sets where you have to sing everything. So even if it's not your strong suit,
Yeah, I
you're
heard
getting paid to
jazz.
work on it.
I heard some like jazz harmonies in there. I heard a bunch of different things on your and I've
For
watched
sure, for sure.
videos. But yeah, so how did you work on that in your training, and like how did that play a part of the final callbacks for that?
Well, that's the thing. When you are dealing with a talent pool that is not New York based, that is not small town USA based, and you have ballroom dancers from Russia, and you have circus people from Quebec, and you have vocalists from Vegas and Broadway and West End, it kind of evens the playing field because everyone has really extreme different strengths. And I don't want to say weaknesses, but things that you can certainly work on, you know? And so I have found that you rely on each other a lot more. And every cast is different. And of course, there's those bad seeds on land or sea. But in general, the people that I have kept around me are the people that really help foster growth and help lift each other up. And you have to be proactive in seeking those people out because they aren't exclusive to land or sea.
Then you
And luckily,
those people too.
yeah, well,
One
I
of
mean,
it
it's
to be to keep that company, I think.
well, I should hope so because I think at any age, but once you reach a certain age, I think there's a responsibility to do that because you can really damage some younger artists and dissuade them from performing or opening up in this profession, and that's what it's all about. I mean, really, you know, if you create an environment where you close someone off emotionally, you are not going to get the best performance out of it, and that's just a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely seen that as a voice teacher. I'm sure you
Mhm.
see that as a coach as well.
Of course, yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course, yeah. You
Yeah.
have to be very careful, but I in general, but I think with the younger people, there's a lot more responsibility that you have, not to be the superhero or the mentor to everybody, but just watch what you say and watch what you do because
The
they're
impression,
always watching.
right?
Yeah,
Everybody takes
yeah.
it, and we don't know what everybody's battles are. Everybody's sort of fighting
Exactly.
different voices.
And in that respect, you know, this is a story that is very unique to cruise ships in the fact that there was, of course, I won't use any names. There was this very masculine, straight, angry Russian ballroom dancer. Contradictory terms, but he came on the ship. He could barely speak English, and everything was hello, hello. That's sort of atypical view of what I guess a lot of Americans think of Russian men. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's fine. You know, I'll just be professional and be empathetic, and I will still keep my distance. You know, okay, that's fine. You know, we have to work together. But he was working on himself a lot. And so midway through the contract, he had a birthday, and he goes, oh, I make speech. I make speech. And we're just like, all right. And he gives this beautiful, fully formed, you know, a speech about how wonderful the ship is and all being around all these people from all these different environments because he's from small town Russia, and that he literally started dancing to escape the Russian mafia because his brother and father and uncle were all in the mafia, and he just had no other outlet in his small town to do anything but dance. And because men are always, you know, very needed, especially in dance, and he was like, I don't want to do that. That's not the life for me. And then he started doing these competitions and came on a ship, and we all were just bawling just to see the growth of this man over 3 months and speaking English English so well and being emotionally open and vulnerable in front of us, and how dance and ships saved his life. Like, oh, it's crazy. It's crazy the experiences you can have out there.
And the
It's really,
relationships that you're cultivating
yeah.
with a huge different group of cultures and people from different backgrounds.
Well, that's the thing. Travel broadens the mind, but nothing broadens the mind more than human connections of people from other places. It's really, really special.
Yeah, wow, that sounds amazing. So cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about singing every night and working on a cruise ship, just the rigors of how to keep your voice healthy, how to keep your body healthy, what you're expected to do.
Well, the thing is, when you're dealing with a 45-minute show, give or take a few minutes, if you're not doing a musical on Disney or NCL, more so the review style traditional cruise ship shows, I'll just touch on, every number is an 11 o'clock number.
Yeah.
Every number, you're up there in the rafters. Every number, you are just, beating that back wall out. So you have to be able to maintain that. And there's a hierarchy, when it comes to the life on a cruise ship that is just a reality. It's like a Navy. And so you have the officers and the hotel staff and the singers and the dancers. And so again, no matter what piece of the puzzle you are dealing with, you have a responsibility. And when you are carrying a number, carrying a show in these review style shows, again, and there's only 4, maybe 6 singers and 14, 16 dancers, depending on the ship, again, you have a responsibility to those people to not be the weakling and be consistent, because you don't have covers like you do on land. They have what's called sick tracking, but that has to be, you have to be dead man walking, And what usually happens is that sometime throughout the contract, either they'll take you in a studio session and just record your vocals, or they'll record your vocals live in a show. So you can lip sync to yourself. So there's some sense of authenticity, and it's just part of the game. People lip sync on award shows because their schedules don't line up to do these rehearsals with all these stars, or the Macy's Day Parade, some Broadway shows, some numbers. It's just a reality that is, for good or bad, part of the industry to continue the show and tell the story.
And it's definitely part of pop rock. I mean,
for sure.
The commercial industry. So
yeah, and again, that's not something that I was ever totally comfortable with. And so it was great to be able to work on that craft every night with people who were stronger at pop rock when I was stronger at traditional sort of musical theater. So I would say, hey, can you break this riff down for me? Can you work on this with me? They're like, yeah, can you teach me how to open up and resonate more in my mat? It can be this beautiful masterclass of art, because dancers could be teaching combos from shows that they've done. You have such a structured life that it can be whatever you want it to be. There were people getting other degrees in IT or psychology just to pass the time or just to transition. You have such a structured life, for good or bad, that you really get to create this world of your own for a couple months, which is nice.
Yeah, and you're getting paid.
You're getting paid to see the world. Yeah, you're getting paid to see the world. Yeah.
It's a consistent check. I mean, that's what else is amazing about that as an
Well, that's the thing. To, again, younger people, especially coming out of college, I'm always like, do a ship, at least 1 or 2, and knock out your debt. I paid off my student loans in 2 contracts. I didn't save much, but it was nice to move back to New York City without any debt,
Debt free. That's
it's amazing. And there's so much inconsistency in this world being an artist, especially now, especially with equity opening its doors, and I think there are so many pros and cons with that. But to me, the reality of entertainment, unless you are Jennifer Hudson or, Tom Cruise, they don't need to necessarily look for their next contract. The contracts come to them. So when you're a blue collar performer, you're always looking for the next gig, and ships are always going to be there. Ships will always be there. So to me, it's my summer stock. If I'm not doing anything, if I need some quick cash, if I say, wow, the industry's coming back, but it's not going to be back for a good 9 months, 12 months. So I need some consistent money now to bounce back.
Right.
Let me call up a ship. Yeah, they can really be wonderful.
Yeah, it sounds so great. I mean, and it's so cool that you're going out now when things are barely starting to open up, and we're trying to figure out what this next thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really exciting. Have you ever gotten to direct anything on a cruise ship, or has that mostly been on land?
No, well, see, that's what's funny too, is that you have all these theaters and venues and technicians and artists at your fingertips. We put on cabarets of our own with huge, crazy Broadway budget lightings and stuff. We've done Christmas cantatas, whatever. They're very good at allowing you to create
Be creative.
on their dime, and on their stage.
Oh, that's amazing.
And again, it's crazy because my other female singer was Ellen in Miss Saigon and was a Doublemint girl, and this other guy that came on was in Les Mis, West End. You have people from all over the world and all across the board as far as experience. And so when you bring all that together, you can really have a lot of really great experiences together.
That is crazy that you can not only cut your teeth as an actor, but you can kind of design the kinds of work that you want to do.
If you said, I want to do Kimberly Women Who Rock show, whatever, they will say, great. Do you have charts? Great. No, we'll have the drummer create some charts for you, and we'll set up rehearsals, and we'll design lights, and we'll film it so now you can sell it and become a fly-on act on your next ship. Like I've never ever had anybody say no to anything that would be personally artistically fulfilling to them, because they can say, hey, can I video your show and show them my design for the lights or my sound design? Because they could use that as well. I've never had anyone say
no. Collaborative, and it sounds like the cruise ship benefits because they get new ideas and they get new shows, and then you also benefit. You're supported by this amazing budget, getting to do what you want to do.
It's just crazy, because it would never happen on land. And I've done about 15 contracts in some version or another over 13 years.
Where have you gotten to go on all those contracts? It's too many.
Gosh. Yeah, I wish I wrote it down, because I always think about that, because I see something and I was like, oh, have I been there? Yes, I've been there. I wish I wrote it down. There are very few places in the world that I haven't been. I guess the main places that I haven't been would be Africa.
We haven't been.
All I can think of is Africa. Yeah, because I've been to not weird, but just places that I would have never thought I would have seen. Weird. Russia. I've been to Russia so many times. Or Iceland, or of course the big ones, Venice, Barcelona and such, but weird little towns in Spain or New Zealand or something. Just, it's very, very strange. I feel very fortunate, because there are so many places that I would never think that I would be able to touch so repeatedly that it becomes just part of your environment. You have friends who perform all over the world. I could call anybody if I traveled to somewhere and say, hey, can I stay with you? Hey, can we go out to dinner? Just your environment as a performer and as a citizen of the world becomes so large, and you really see a lot of humanity, in the sense that we're all not that different. As much as they want us to believe we are, we're not that different, especially when it comes to being artists. It's special.
Feels like an amazing, world-class paid study abroad. But
there are a lot of rules.
Of course. But my questions was going to be, do you have any advice for actors in college? But I think the bigger question is, how do you feel about college right now? How do you feel about training in a BFA? How do you feel about, getting out there and starting contracts and learning from really good coaches and really good teachers, as opposed to taking on hundreds of $1,000s of debt?
Here's the thing. I mean, you have people like Amy Adams, Oscar nominee. Has she won an Oscar? Doesn't matter. Oscar nominee, I know that. But she's never been to school. Michael J. Fox, I think he didn't complete high school. And then you have those people that went to Juilliard, Meryl Streep and Mandy Patinkin and Viola Davis. There's no right or wrong. There's so much celebration for people that did it the hard way, like Prince, who is self-taught, But there are so many skilled people that we regard as the bar on so many levels, like Jennifer Hudson or Sting, that have worked on cruise ships. it's literally just another chance to have a consistent life in this inconsistent world. And some people really need college. I really needed college just for growing up more than anything else. Granted, I started really late, so I needed base skills that probably were afforded to other people whose parents could afford that, when they were little, like piano lessons and basic ballet and this and that. So I needed that vocabulary. I needed that structure. And I personally just wanted a degree. It's a first generation Latino thing and whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to some crazy amazing school, but I went to a crazy amazing school for me.
Yeah.
There's so many people that work from all these big name schools, but I know a lot of people that don't work from those big name schools. And people like Robin DeJesus has been nominated for 3 Tonys, who never went to school. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just what is right for you. And if you think you are ready to play on that level and work on that level and compete on that level, then you do you. But some people really need school. And I just loved the structure of school.
I loved that as well. I was in school for a long, long time, but I did accrue a lot of debt from it.
Of course, yeah.
Even now, thinking about the top 10 schools that are out there, I'm talking to students about taking on, something like $50,000 a year with a scholarship. That's 4 years, and that's $200,000. They're not coming out and being a doctor. You know what I mean? So you're only as good as your next contract in this.
And that's the thing. And what's a great contract to knock that out? Cruise ships. Because if you work consistently on cruise ships throughout the year, you can easily pull in $120,000 a year, depending on the line. Every line is different. Every line has different rules. Every line has different pay scales. So you certainly have to do your research when it comes to that.
For you, it has to be.
Sorry?
It has to be the right thing for you. You have to be comfortable being,
of course,
and performing that much and traveling that much.
And you have to be very good and comfortable with rules. There's a lot of rules. Some of them are very arbitrary and silly, and you just nod and smile because you're getting, $15 to $2,000 a week.
Yeah, I'm glad you're mentioning that.
I mean, yeah. It's baffling to me when a lot of these magnet high schools or college programs are bashing on cruise ships because, again, Jennifer Hudson, Oscar winner, has done cruise ships, and so many other people, and not bashing the West End because I'd love to work on the West End, who wouldn't? But I've worked with many West End people who come in and say they get paid so much more on a cruise ship. Yeah. And is it only about the money? No. But if I had $200,000 in debt, I certainly would do anything to knock that out sooner rather than later. And
get experience and, get to know people who are in the industry, whether they're on the ships or out of the industry. Yeah.
Yeah. Because all those people could be transitioning as well. I mean, and cruise ships aren't what they used to be anymore. They're not just, girls in leotards and a feather backpack, in a lounge. You have the same Broadway creative team who did 6 West End and Broadway are doing it on a cruise ship.
Wasn't there
Stephen Schwartz he does a lot of shows for us at Princess and John Tartaglia and Jim Henson Productions. It's not assistant to the assistant to the assistant. It's those people you're working with. So those connections are still connections. And there have been many people that zip to the end of the line as far as, final callbacks for auditions or whatever experience they may have, because now they have a strong connection with this amazing person. It's just, it's very, very strange when people put that down to me. And I think that's more their insecurity than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's so much, so many ideas flailing around that are ideas about the industry that are not actually real anyway. I mean, I have a lot of people come to me and they're like, well, do you think I have what it takes to make it on Broadway? And I'm like, girl, you've had one lesson. I don't know what your work ethic is. I don't know if you want to live in New York. I don't know if you want to do that.
Well, that's what I mean. There's so many programs that are not teaching a lot of realities of the industry. Again, not to, beat a dead horse, but equity opening its doors. I was talking to a very good friend of mine, and he said the same thing. Oh, do you think I have what it takes to be a equity performer and compete at a Broadway level? And I was like, well, yeah, but I think that's this much of it. Do you have what it takes to work an equity contract for $300 a week because you really need those 4 more weeks for health insurance? Are you ready for that reality? Are you ready for the fact that there are small professional theater contracts in the union that pay $300 and $350 a week? Are you ready to create art there?
Yeah.
There's so many realities that you really have to sort of swallow and know before making a big decision like that. But in that regard, again, just because we're talking about cruise ships create such a wonderful quality of life, and people are buying houses cash because they've paid off all their debt. Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Sure.
I gotta save more money.
We can't even fathom that, having like
Mm-hmm.
regular home, having children, like being able to pay all of your bills and support a family on an actor.
Of course.
And it's really, I think it's beautiful that this is part of what makes it feasible.
And the thing is, there are many theaters on land, production contracts, or your Bransons or regional, Broadway style houses that do this as well. But cruise ships are really, really good at doing what's called a package deal for husbands and wives, or linking. They call it linking as well. Boyfriends or fiancés, man, woman, boy, girl, non-binary, whatever your relationship is, they would love for you to be together because they want you happy so you don't leave, So that's a wonderful thing to think of, as if you're a dancer and a singer, or singer and a singer as well. I mean, so many options.
And have that community before you go make a bunch of new friends. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Considering that for a while. We were considering auditioning together. We did a couple auditions before the pandemic because that was something I was looking to do, knock out some debt and get some performing going again, since it had been a minute. Yeah.
And what's wonderful about ships is that they've always been ahead of the curve when it comes to digital submissions, because again, you're dealing with people from Russia and New Zealand and all these places that don't have a New York or LA to make the audition. So they're really, really good about taking digital submissions and looking at your content, which is why we all have to keep that content up. And I've gotten several jobs on ships, and on land as well, literally just from a damn good video.
Yeah, well, that's, I do feel like that is an important reminder right now. We're all so zoomed out. We're also like, we don't want to continue studying online, or we want things in person. But for those of us that have kept up, at least challenging ourselves artistically as we can during the pandemic, I think people are definitely ready for a bunch of submissions, and they're polishing their packages now, as opposed to just getting back into things.
And it's hard. It's scary because, I mean, now the lines are blurred and a lot of people do TV and film and theater and whatever else. But when I was growing up, I just wanted to do theater. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I ever wanted to do. I've done some TV and film, and I was just like, oh, that's fun. Not for me. Good money, whatever. But I love the live aspect of connecting with someone in real time and seeing them sweat and feeling that pain hit you without the shield of the screen between you. It's different. I love and respect TV and film, but I love theater. But now you got to be really polished on your TV film performance skills, because a lot of times that's going to be your first look and first sort of foot in the door. So you gotta be working on those skills.
Agent or not.
Yeah. And agent is such a funny thing to do, because agents get you into a lot of big rooms. Yeah. But where are you on their roster? I, again, not naming names, but I was talking to an agent friend who represents someone from Hamilton, a very big name, Leslie Odom. And I said, so what does your day look like, And he said, well, 80% of my day is spent looking for Leslie Odom's next gig. And the other 20% of my day is trying to help everybody else in the roster.
Wow.
But you're with a big name. And then you go with a boutique agency, and they don't get as many slots as the big name, but they will be more apt to push you, especially once they know your product and your brand. And Agents are funny. Agents are, again, you got to ask a lot of questions early on and understand a lot of realities when it comes to that. But agents can only do so much. And it's just very, very strange because you still have to be proactive. That's great you have an agent, but you still got to do those submissions on your own. You still got to get on Actors Access or breakdowns and see what's going on and say, hey, can you give me a slot for this? Can you get me in? I just sent in a video. Can you do a follow-up? Like, you still have to do some of the grunt work, even though you have an agent, again, unless you are an Audra McDonald or someone like that. And I don't think too many of those will be watching this video, so we are the blue collar, in the trenches, hardworking actors, and we have to be proactive in every aspect of that life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, agents take a fee, so I guess it is sort of a decision, a moment that you decide that that's where you need to get into those rooms, and you're not able to get into them yourself. Have you?
Of course, yeah.
You have an agent now?
Yes, I've had an agent for several years, but it's still the same thing, even though I have been with Princess off and on for about 10 years. I still let my agent do the deal. Do I still pay my agent from that? Yes, because it's almost like a retainer, a pledge of good faith, because he still got his ear to the ground when I'm 3 months in and sending me submissions for, what did I just do? Wicked Swinger, Come From Away on Broadway, and those are all digital submissions. So even though they necessarily may not have gotten you in that room or gotten you that job, let them do the deal and still take care of them if you want them to still take care of you.
Right. Their job is to look ahead. Their job is to look ahead, focused on what you're focused on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, do you have any last words of advice for people just getting back into the industry, professional, pre-professional?
Well, for myself as well, go easy on yourself. This was traumatizing to everybody, and just own that. And there are those bad days. You're going to have bad days and bad moments, and allow yourself to feel that. But also just don't sit there and in a morbid way sort of use that. Remember that. Pull that up for the next audition. Honestly, if I was to say anything, go. If you are able to go to live auditions, especially, go to some auditions you don't care about first.
Yeah.
Like, you don't care about not booking and you don't care about bombing, because that's where you want to get out all the jitters.
Yeah.
So when the ones come up that you're ready to actually ideally book, that will be all dealt with.
Yeah.
And also don't limit yourself, and don't let teachers or your friends' egos that may have done 5 Broadway shows, whatever, don't let their journey limit yours, especially if you have other dreams. Success has many faces, many faces, and you just need to really sit down with yourself and realize what it means to you. And to me, success means doing what I love and getting paid to do it, and paying my bills on time and eating. Yes, I would love to be, a multi-million-dollar contract sort of guy, who wouldn't, but ships help you really create a lot of consistency in your life. And nothing's perfect. Nothing's permanent. Nothing is perfect, but nothing's permanent. You're always going to have an end of contract date. And you can love it or leave it and move on. But if you really need to take stock and sit somewhere and sort of reassess what you want to do, where you want to be, and hone some other skills, I think ships are a wonderful option.
Yeah, great. Well, I mean, and the part about knowing yourself and what you need right now, if that is to be live and to be in person and doing a contract just for yourself, and to get to know people and get into the industry, then absolutely. And face it, make money too. Like, why turn your nose up at something like that, where you're building such skills and contacts and money too? Yeah, well, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Michael, for being.
My pleasure.
And for, all of your great advice and all of these great tidbits about what it's like working on cruise ships.
Thank you so much. And stay working with Kim. She knows what she's doing. Woo!
Thank you. Yes, well, we have a good time, don't we?
Never stop taking class. That's another thing I would say. Never stop taking class. You don't know it all. I mean, you don't. And the skills are always changing. The
All
requirements are always changing. So you gotta keep those up, especially if you are in an industry that is very youth based. Then they're coming in. Hi, no, come in. Yes, and you gotta keep those skills up for sure.
it's super important. Absolutely. Yeah. And we're always, I mean, even I think as coaches, as teachers, we're always looking to continue developing our skills. So if we are doing that at this stage in our careers, then you can't think about taking off and not continuing to grow your skills. If
For sure, and it's fun. It's fun to learn new things.
yeah, it's really fun to be able to like take something that someone says that really hits you a certain way, cultivate it and make it your own, or figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. It's like a constant learning, and it's super fun.
Definitely, agreed.
Great. Well, thank you again, Michael, and
My pleasure.
great to have you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.